You're listening to A Slice of Therapy with me, Alun Parry. So imagine you're a fan of a business and you really like the stuff that they do. And so you save up and you decide that you're going to buy like one of their prestige products because you like them so much. And so you save up and you buy the product and then you wait excitedly for it to arrive. And then one morning it does. It arrives. There's a knock on the door and you open the door and there's the delivery person holding a nice big, exciting looking box. And you take it indoors and you eagerly open up the box. And then inside is the thing you ordered from the company whose stuff you really like. And then you notice that it's wrong, that it's broken. And you spent a lot of money on this, but it just doesn't work. Now in this moment, there's a kind of breach really, isn't it? Because you have every right to expect that this thing should work fine, and yet it doesn't. Now in those moments, I'm sure you've been in that situation before where you've had some sort of interaction like that. You might think that that would make you annoyed or even turn away from the company completely, but in actual fact, what can often happen here when it's handled well is that you end up liking that company even more. Because even though they've sent you something that didn't work, and even though you're really disappointed because you were so excited to receive it and you paid so much money for it, in the reaching out to the company to tell them that it doesn't work, they respond so well that amidst your disappointment, you just love that company and what they do even more than you did beforehand. Because in their response, they make it better. And they don't just make it better, but they make it better in a way that actually builds their reputation and builds trust, rather than in a way which damages it. Now, this reminds me of a famous quote by Mae West. And what the actress Mae West once famously said was, "When I'm good, I'm very, very good. But when I'm bad, I'm better." And it's kind of a cheeky phrase, but if you kind of think of it in these terms, that when things go right, and when we do things that, we're at our best version of ourselves, then that's great, isn't it? We love that. We love to experience that from other people and from organisations and businesses and so on. But what the Mae West quote kind of implies is that it can be a real opportunity to mess up. Because everyone is bound to mess up. But in that moment where something that you considered great or someone that you considered great messes up, therein lies an opportunity for them to actually become greater. And it's quite counterintuitive, really, because when people mess up, you'd think that they go down in your estimation. But based on the way that they handle that, they can actually go up. They can start off great and then finish off even greater despite the error. And this is true of therapy as well. Many therapists will refer to this Mae West principle. In fact, there's been research done into it that if there is some kind of breach or rupture or breakdown in the relationship between a client and a therapist, and the client becomes really disappointed in something that the therapist did, that is actually a moment for the relationship between the two of them to get much, much stronger than it could have been otherwise. Now, obviously, it's not a good idea to make mistakes on purpose. But what the research shows is that the relationship that develops in the therapy room between a therapist and client is actually much stronger when an error has taken place, when there has been some sort of rupture, than when there hasn't, so long as it was dealt with well. So long as it was a learning experience, so long as the therapist actually was responsive and heard your concerns and adapted to them. In those moments then, there is actually a real opportunity to deepen trust, even though it would seem on the face of it that trust has been reduced somehow. And I think this is true in our personal relationships as well. We're all going to go through moments in our life when we let other people down. We are, after all human. And so we are bound to let other people down just in the course of our interactions. May not be our intention, but nonetheless it's bound to happen. And when it happens, there can be a temptation to think that we've blown it with that person because we let them down. But in actual fact, just like with the company that really resolves your problem, or just with the therapist where the study shows that it's actually after some kind of mistake or error that things get even stronger between the two people who are working together, this can be true in our personal relationships as well. The fact that we fall from grace in that moment is not the end of the story for us. And yet it can lead us to kind of stay away from the person that we've harmed. But what if what we did instead when we let somebody down is to follow those great companies who deal with the error that they've made by sending you a product, say, that doesn't work, but respond in such a way that they go from great in your eyes initially to even greater after the error. Imagine if we responded like the great therapists who, when they get things wrong or when they do a misstep, that they actually respond to the client's concern in such a way that the client thinks even more of the therapist after the error than before. Imagine if in our daily lives, whenever we do something that hurts somebody else, even if unintentional, as it usually is, that we notice that hurt and respond to it in such a way that the way that we respond to the hurt actually strengthens our bond rather than weakens it. So we may start with a good bond and then we hurt and then the bond is weakened. But in fact, after the hurt, the way we respond to the hurt means that our bond is stronger than before the hurt happened. And so to summarise then, we looked at the way companies who get things wrong for us, when they have good customer service, what happens is that we feel even more strongly in favour of the company despite an error than we did beforehand, simply because of how they handled it. We noticed how therapists who do a misstep, who make a mistake with a client, where the relationship goes awry, actually can build stronger relationships after the error than what would have happened without. We looked at that Mae West principle of when I'm good, I'm very good, but when I'm bad, I'm better. And we looked as well at how in our own lives we can use that principle in order to ensure that when we do hurt somebody else, or when our relationship with someone else goes awry, or when we let somebody else down, that's not the end of the story for us with that other person, that actually it can also be an opportunity for us to really strengthen the relationship in the same way as those companies and those therapists, to really strengthen the relationship so it's even stronger than before the rupture, simply by being responsive to the other people's concern and to handling that rupture really, really well. And so if you like this idea and you would like others to benefit as well, then please help us out by sharing the episode. Even give us a 5-star review on either Stitcher or iTunes. That would be really welcome. And if you'd like to work with me directly, I'm Alun Parry, and you can find me at liverpoolpsychotherapy.co.uk. And of course, please do subscribe to the podcast. It means you'll never miss an episode ever again. And of course, there is a new episode every single day, and it's completely free. So thanks for listening. I'll be back again tomorrow with another one.